This is a key to topic 17, and this is the worksheet called Extra number 10. And you have three rational equations, and you want to solve each of those rational equations. Now remember, it says solve the following by clearing the fractions denominators using the LCD. All right, and then don't forget to state the LCD. Okay, so let's look at number one. So number one, we have 7 divided by x plus 6 equals 6 divided by x minus 5. So we have this rational equation. Now this is an easy kind in the fact that the denominators are already in factored form. So in other words, you can't do anything else with it. X plus 6 is x plus 6. You cannot factor that. The GCF is 1. X minus 5 is x minus 5. You cannot factor that. The GCF is 1. It's also easy in the fact that you only have one rational expression on the left side and you only have one on the right side. Okay, so let's talk about the LCD. Your LCD must include every factor you see. I see an x plus 6, I must use it. Notice I have parentheses here. I see an x minus 5, I must use it. So your LCD is the product of these two factors, x plus 6, x minus 5. Now make sure you leave it in factored form. Leave it in factored form. All right, now let's talk about restrictions now. All right, so your restrictions, so remember, in rational expressions, you cannot divide by 0. So what makes this denominator 0? So all you have to do to determine what makes that 0, and you could, this is a very easy linear expression. So I'm hoping that you realize that negative 6 plus 6 is 0. So my restriction is that x cannot equal negative 6. That's one of them because negative 6 makes this denominator 0. But all you have to do, guys, is just take that factor, x plus 6, and in fact, just take each factor from your least common denominator, x plus 6, and find out where's the 0. So solve this linear equation for x. You subtract 6 from both sides, you can get x to be negative 6, and that's what you see here. Okay? So that's your restriction. So that's where the negative 6 is a value of x that makes my denominator 0, because I would have 7 divided by 0, which is undefined. Now let's talk about this one. What makes this 0? Now this is easy as well, because think about what number minus 5 is 0. Well, 5 minus 5 is 0. So again, same thing. You're going to say x minus 5 equals 0. Add 5 to both sides, you get x to be 5. So there's your other restriction. So number one, there are two restrictions, negative 6 and 5. Okay? Because negative 6 and 5 will make one of these rational expressions undefined. Negative 6 makes this undefined, 5 makes this one undefined. Okay, once you find your least common denominator and your restrictions, the next step is to go ahead and multiply both sides by the LCD. This LCD now. So you're going to say x plus 6 times x minus 5 times the left side. 7 divided by x plus 6 equal the LCD times this. X plus 6 times x minus 5 times the right-hand side. Okay? Just like that. All right, so now remember the whole point of multiplying by the LCD is to clear those denominators. You want those denominators to be factors of 1, so that's where you reduce. So the x plus 6 is divide out, the x minus 5 is divide out. So you get factors of 1s in their place. Now be careful how you rewrite this. So this right here is 1 times x minus 5 times 7. See, you have 3 factors that be multiplied together. Remember, multiplication is commutative. The order in which you multiply does not matter. So I want you to listen carefully. 1 times 7 is 7. So I'm going to multiply 7 by this binomial. So it's going to look like this. Okay? Now those parentheses are important. That's important because you're going to distribute in a little while. Equal x plus 6 times 1 times 6. So listen carefully. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 times x plus 6 is what I have here. Okay? All right, now we're going to distribute this as well. So 7 times x is 7x. 7 times a negative 5 is a negative 35 equal 6 times x is 6x. 6 times a positive 6 is a positive 36. This is a linear equation. So I went from a rational equation to a linear. So let's go ahead and subtract 6x from both sides. 7x subtract 6x is x, minus 35 equal, this is 0, 36. Add 35 to both sides. I get, and combine like terms, this is 0. So I get x to be, and then 36 plus 35 looks like that's what, 71? And notice that's not a restriction. 71 is not one of those restrictions. So as long as it did this work correct, then this should be a solution. Okay, so now let's look at number 2. Number 2, we have this. We have 7 divided by x plus 3 minus 5 divided by x plus 5 equal x plus 35 divided by x squared plus 8x plus 15. All right, now remember, the first thing you have to do before you find your least common denominator, the first thing you have to do is factor all of those denominators. So x plus 3 is a linear factor. There's nothing you can do with that one. X plus 5 is also a linear factor. There's nothing you can do with it. In both cases, the GCF is 1. But here, I can factor that. I can factor this trinomial. So I want to show you. So when you factor this, you get x plus 3 times x plus 5. That's what you get. And notice that these factors are already here. And so always check. The outer is 5x, the inner is 3x. You get 8x, and then 3 times 5 is 15. So remember now, your LCD must include every factor that you see. I see an x plus 3, I have to use it. I see an x plus 5, I have to use it. I see an x plus 3, I already have it. I see an x plus 5, I already have it. So don't add it again. Don't put two of them. Don't put two factors of x plus 3. Don't put two factors of x plus 5 because it's no longer the least. It is a common, but it's no longer the least, and it's going to make this extremely difficult for you if you don't use the least. Use the least common denominator, the least. Okay? All right, now let's talk about the restrictions. So basically, restriction is what values of x will make the denominator 0, and really all you got to do is just look at your factors from your LCD. So if I look at x plus 3, so let's do this one. Let's look at x plus 3 here. See this x plus 3. Find out where that's 0. So x plus 3 is equal to 0 when x equal negative 3, right? And then for x plus 5 is equal to 0 when x equal negative 5. So there are two restrictions. X cannot equal negative 3 and x cannot equal negative 5. Because when x is negative 3, this is 0. So I get 7 divided by negative 3 plus 3 is 0. When x is negative 5, this is undefined. So I get 5 divided by 0, which is undefined. Same thing here. When x is negative 3 plus 35, whatever that is, which by the way is 32, divided by negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So 0 times negative 3 plus 5 is 2. So 32 divided by 0 is undefined. Same thing here. Negative 5 plus 35 is 30. But it doesn't matter because when I substitute negative 5 here, it becomes 0. And 0 times whatever this is 0 in the denominator. So negative 5 plus 35 is 30. 30 divided by 0 is still undefined. So these are the only two values of x that will make at least one of those undefined. And all I did was just got it from the least common denominator. So those are your two restrictions. So once you find your least common denominator and once you find your restriction, then the next step is to multiply both sides by the LCD. Okay, now listen carefully to this. It'll be a little bit more work because you have two rational expressions here. So since there are two here, we're going to put that in parentheses. And so I'm going to say this times this. So the LCD, x plus 3 times x plus 5 times the left-hand side. 7 divided by x plus 3 minus 5 divided by x plus 5 equal, and then the LCD times the right side. Now, whenever you rewrite the right side, don't use x squared plus 8x plus 15. Use the factored part. So that way you, when reduce, you're going to see the LCD. So you get the LCD times the rational expression on the right. So x plus 35 divided by x plus 3 times x plus 5. See, I'm using the factored part because now you see that those factors are visible. You can see those factors. Now let's go ahead and distribute over here. Distribute over here. I'm going to get the LCD times the first fraction. So x plus 3 times x plus 5 times 7 divided by x plus 3 minus the LCD times the second, x plus 3 times x plus 5 times 5 divided by x plus 5. Now since I'm running out of room here, I'm going to go ahead and reduce those up at that point. So the x plus 3 is divided out. The whole purpose of multiplying by the LCD is to get these factors to be factors of 1s, and the x plus 5s divide out. So I get 1 times x plus 35 is x plus 35. Okay? Now again, the whole point is to get these denominators to be 1s. So let's reduce. So the x plus 3s divide out, the x plus 5s divide out. So you get factors of 1s in their place. Now be careful here. 1 times 7 is 7. So I get 7 times x plus 5. Minus, be careful, that's a subtraction, x plus 3 times 1 times 5. So do 1 times 5 first. So that'll be minus 5 times x plus 3. So I want you to notice that this is the same thing as this. 1 times 5 is 5, so 5 times x plus 3 equal x plus 35. Okay, now going ahead and distributing, I get 7 times x is 7x, 7 times 5 is 35. A negative 5 times x is a negative 5x. A negative 5 times 3 is a negative 15 equal x plus 35. Notice though, I want you to notice something. I went from a rational equation to a linear equation. So I went from a rational equation to a linear equation. All right, let's combine like terms. 7x and a negative 5x is 2x. A positive 35 and a negative 15 is a positive 20 equal x plus 35. Subtract x from both sides. 2x minus x is x plus 20 equal, this is 0, x minus x is 0. 0 plus 35 is 35. Subtract 20 from both sides. Combine like terms. I get x to be 35 minus 20 is 15. And 15 is not a restriction. So as long as I did this work correct, this is a solution. So that's your solution. All right, so your solution in the blank right here for number 2, in the blank you're going to say the LCD is x plus 3 times x plus 5, and your solution is 15. Okay? All right. Now let's look at number 3. Okay, number 3, we have this. In number 3, we have this rational equation. You have 6 divided by x minus 2 plus 5 equal 3 divided by 2x minus 4. All right. Now remember, first thing you have to do is to factor those denominators. Now notice this linear factor, the GCF is 1. This linear factor, the GCF is 2. So I can factor out a 2. So I get 2 times x minus 2. Okay? And then over here, you see that's 5 over 1. So the GCF, so the monomial factor here is 1. So now if I find the LCD must include every factor you see. I see an x minus 2, I have to use it. I see a 1, 1's a factor of everything. I see a 2, I have to use it. See, I put it right here. There's my 2. There's my factor of 2. I see an x minus 2, I already have it. All right, so that's your least. Don't put any more because it's no longer the least. That's your least. All right, now leave it in factored form. Now the restriction, just to remind you about the restriction is what makes the denominator 0, because if when we're dealing with a rational expression, if the denominator is 0, then this becomes undefined. So if you look at your denominator here, x minus 2, so if you look at x minus 2, and I ask myself, where is x minus 2 equal to 0? Well, x minus 2 is equal to 0 when x equals 2. And so here, that's never 0 because that's 1. See, that's 5 divided by 1 right here. 5 divided by 1. You all agree that 6 divided by x minus 2 plus 5, this right here, I can write as 5 over 1, right? Okay, so that's never 0. And over here, the only factor that involves the variable x is this one, and that's the same as this one. So that value of x that makes this 0 is the same as this one. So it's just 2. So your restriction is that x cannot equal 2. All right, now once you find your LCD and once you find your restriction, then let's go ahead and multiply both sides by the LCD. Okay, so since I have two rational expressions here, I'm gonna put that in parentheses when I do the next step. So it's your LCD times the left side and the LCD times the right side. So I get 2, the LCD, 2 times x minus 2 times the left side, 6 divided by x minus 2 plus 5, equal, and then the LCD times the right side. Now, remember what we said earlier, always make sure you use the factored part when you get to this step. So times 3 divided by 2 times x minus 2. And the reason for that is now you can see those factors. You can visibly see the factors here, and those can reduce. Distributing here, I get the LCD times the first and the LCD times the second rational expression. So 2 times x minus 2 times the first rational expression plus 2 times x minus 2 times 5 equal, and let's just go ahead and reduce over here now. The 2's divide out, the x minus 2's divide out, and you get 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, now remember the whole point of multiplying by the LCD is to get these factors to be 1s, and now they're 1s here, and they're 1s here now because the x minus 2's divide out. Now look what happens. Now be careful. 2 times 1 times 6 is 12. So this is 12 right here. Plus, now be careful over here. See, there's really 3 factors here. 2 times an x minus 2 times a 5. So there are 3 things that are being multiplied together. The order in which you multiply does not matter. So think, 2 times 5 is 10. So put 10 times x minus 2 equal 3. All right, now going ahead and distributing here. Now remember, don't say 12 plus 10 first, because that's mathematically not correct. Remember, you got to multiply first before you add. So if I multiply first, I get 12 plus 10 times x is 10x, and then 10 times a negative 2 is a negative 20 equal 3. Now notice I have a linear equation. So I went from a rational equation to a linear. Combining like terms, I get 10x, 12 and a negative 20 is a negative 8, equal 3. Adding 8 to both sides, I get 10x equal, what's that, 11? So 10x equal 11. And then divide both sides by 10, I get x to be 11/10. And notice that is not a restriction, so this is my solution. Okay? So in number 3, your LCD was 2 times x minus 2, and your solution was 11/10. And then number 1, let's see, I think number 1, the LCD was x minus 5, x plus 6, and the solution happened to be 71. All right, so that is the key to topic 17, worksheet extra number 10. That is the key.